Well, hello everybody. It's Matt West of PowerChalk from Cary, North Carolina. I'd like to welcome you to another session dedicated to PowerChalk and web-based motion analysis and our great partnership with USA Diving. And on behalf of that partnership and Jason Bauman, I'd like to welcome all of you today to another session. And today we have Allison Brennan with us, and Allison is the former University of South Carolina coach, now the head club coach with South Carolina Diving. Allison, are you there with us?
I am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Or good morning to some.
Well, Allison, welcome. And I know that for you folks that have been a part of these sessions before, you're familiar, and I'll just take a very brief moment to make sure you know the most important thing about our partnership is that you have the ability as a member of USA Diving to access a free account at www.powerchalk.com/diving. And we'll talk about some of the mechanics of the system and even some upgrade opportunities at the very tail end. Normally we've done that at the beginning, but for today we want to make the best use of Allison's time and expertise. If you notice by looking at your screen, we call it your locker. I have loaded my locker, and again, I've searched by sport and obviously picked diving. And today, I think, Allison, we're going to focus in on a young lady who's going to do a well, why don't I just turn it over to you and let you? She's gonna do a back 1.5 somersault. And for those of you who have used the system before, there's two ways to use our Telestrator. One is to go up to the menu bar at the top where it says Telestrate. The other is if you go down to the listing of the thumbnails and you see the little man with the headset on the right-hand side next to the Facebook and Twitter icons, you can go ahead and click on that. And I want to make sure that I've got the right dive here, which is video 15. So, Allison, without further ado, I've gone ahead and loaded this, and if all of you are aware, a couple of things about being web-based is that we are file, computer, and camera agnostic. So you can use your digital camera, you can use your iPhone, any smartphone, you can use your iPad tablet, your Droid tablet that has a camera. This was obviously taken with either an iPhone or a tablet. And we also are fully deployable on your Mac, any PC, laptop, your iPad, your iPhone, and your Android system to actually view and utilize the system. So we're not going to go into a great deal of detail there, but what we are going to do is, again, welcome Allison and her great comments. So, Allison, why don't we go ahead and get started? I've loaded the dive of this this young lady in the back 1.5. Why don't you go ahead and take me through? And while she does that, folks, I'm going to grab the playhead, which is the little red A arrow, and I can literally drag the diver anywhere I want in the sequence. So I think that maybe about 357, Allison, is where maybe we want to go ahead and start. And so I'll click back and go ahead and draw a line from the board straight up and down. And why don't you go ahead and take it from there?
Well, as you can see here, this diver looks like her balance on the board. She's a little forward. Her arms are a little more in front of her head. And as you can see, with the line being drawn straight down, she needs to maybe suck that belly in a little more and get a little more hollow position in order for her to be in what you could call the proper balance to start a back takeoff. As you also notice, her head position is a little down. And some divers like to put their head position a little more up to keep their body in a little bit more balance. So her posture is it's the first thing that I notice of this diver when she stands on, and it's the lack of the hollow position and the arms in front instead of in the planes of her body. And then if you want to go ahead and you can erase the lines and go to roll forward, focusing on the path of the arm swing and the general body of the alignment.
So I think that we had talked, Allison, and maybe stopping about right here.
Correct.
So what are you seeing right now?
Right now, what we're looking at is the arm position down by the hips and how the knees are bent. And what you particularly notice is the position of the board at horizontal. So the fact that the board's not getting any downward motion, she's not quite using the board to the best of her ability, and she'd be able to get so much more out of the board if she were to be able to drop her body down. And then when if you continue to roll forward, you can see her standing and the extension of the knees, and as they get straight, I think it's right around 391, she could definitely adjust this timing much more to get more out of the board, and this would adjust her angle of takeoff, and it would also allow the dive to be much easier to control. It would allow her to focus a little bit better on the bottom of the dive and the entry and the angle of entry that we'll get to in a second. And then I would also point out that her arm position here is a little more bent, and it's not all the way in line with the body. It's pretty close in line with the body, but it's just quite not right back up to those ears. And her head position is a little too far back. My guess is she's probably an ex-gymnast or a converting gymnast. You see a lot of this. I did this a lot as a diver. I was a gymnast. I think it was the biggest issue that I had to correct in my diving. We like to throw our head back in order to initiate the spin, whereas in diving you want to keep that head a little more neutral in with the line of the body and the arms, so you can allow the board to actually do more of the work versus the diver trying to, what I like to call, muscle the dive to try and get it around.
So Allison, one of the things that that our system allows you to do, and again, whether this was something that you found, is that what you also have the ability to do is to type directly onto the screen. So if I was listening to what Allison said and I just wanted to put something on the screen when I'm recording a session, I can say your head's going back. You can type those things. So it's not just about someone being able to record Allison's voice in the markup or to draw lines, arcs, and circles, but you can actually write a text message, if you will, on top of that screen. So, Allison, what's next here? We want to we want to move this forward a little bit more.
Yeah, if you scroll forward somewhere between 391 and 400, if you want to stop right there, you can see it. Her head's still back, and in the sport of diving, you want your head to be down and in, looking through your legs, so you're able to see your spots correctly and be able to kick on cue. Visualization and seeing your spots is key in diving, and allows the diver to recognize, you know, where they're at in the air, where they're at relative to the water, and where they need to kick in order to put the dive straight in on their head for obviously those big bucks and those bonus points that allows for us to.
So Allison, you're saying that you would want the head to be kind of rotated and
correct, a little
almost
more
tucked in.
Correct, a little more in, so she's watching her body come up, and that'll allow her head to be in the proper position, so when she does see her spot, she's not seeing it late, or she possibly, with her head being this far back, she might not see it at all. So as you continue going through the sequence, at about 413, she just begins to kick out. And if you notice, it's the common sequence, as most coaches should know, should be kick, look, then reach. So it's get into your tuck, you kick tight, you look, then you reach. Her head position is already back, and you can see her let go of the tuck first. So right there, she's already kind of looking for the water, which is obviously out of order from what you would like a diver to do. And she lets go of her tuck first, and she starts to reach for the water. And I think it's at about frame 417. The knees are still bent. So you can see her upper body kind of coming out first versus her kick. And by kicking first, that allows the diver to stop the dive and stop in the position that they are in and stop the rotation, so that way we don't go over or flying on our face. And about frame 425 is when she actually hits the water. And you can see her angle of entry is pretty good, but as you continue to go forward, you notice the lean that she had on the takeoff and the out of sequence, the out sequence that she has, where she comes out upper body first versus kicking, the dive ends up going over, which obviously she's going to lose some points doing that. And had her balance been straighter up on the board and had her head been in and she came out with the kick first, she definitely would have probably been able to stop that dive or stop the momentum of the dive instead of going in relatively vertical and then having what we call a wash over, or she just ended up going over.
So Allison, again, for me, the layman here, and again, this really is a good analogy for any sport. Oftentimes, the errors that we see in your sport at entry were caused by something certainly that the diver did earlier in the process, just like a pitcher making a mistake, a hitter, a server in tennis, a golf swing. So here, what I'm hearing you say is her angle of entry here is not bad, but because of where her body was in the process, I drew a straight up and down line to mark her body, but it's really more about this forward movement that we're seeing here as she enters the water, and that's what you're calling is a washout?
Washover. She ends up going over on the dive.
Right.
So that's a term I use. Other coaches may use a different term, but she ends up going over on the dive. And most of your divers, again, it's the start position. And the biggest correction that I tell my divers is if you're leaning off the board in the start, the amount of lean you have going off the board is going to be relative to the amount of overness you'll have in the dive. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you're leaning off of the board, you're going to end up going in that same angle over, going into the water. So if you watch, again, as you're playing it through, you can watch how, because her head starts to throw back, her shoulders shift back, and the takeoff off the board, she's leaning back just a little bit, and her arms and body aren't quite all in that nice straight line that you want to see where the hips generate up and over the board versus coming out and back behind the board.
So let me try to draw a parallel here again in my limited view, is that there's probably a very direct correlation to the amount of lean that she has here with the amount of wash through, as you put it, at the end. Would that be a kind of fair assessment there? So if you were teaching and using motion analysis and using our system, you'd very easily be able to tell a diver the more that you're going to lean, in this case lean back on takeoff, the more chance you have that you're going to have to try to play catch up in the dive or compromise some of the other moves you have to make. Otherwise, you're going to have that, what you said, that equal reaction, which is to have a washover. Would that be accurate?
I would agree. That is very accurate. You know,
so let's talk one other point I wanted to ask you to clarify on is the order that you were talking, and I think that the order is here where you were talking about it would be to kick your legs out first, then release the tuck, and then your head would go. Is that the order that you're talking about?
That is very correct. Yep. Tuck, kick, look, reach. So she's in the tuck now. So the first thing she wants to do is kick her legs out. However, see, her head's a little blurry, but you can see where her head, and you can see how it's, I guess, to the right, and it's looking back already versus in, down, looking at her knees. So it looks here like she's starting to look back with her head first, and then again, as you continue to scroll, she ends up coming out with her upper body. Her arms are already starting to move, yet her legs are still almost 90 degrees bent still. So you want to make sure the legs are the very first thing that kick out in a dive. And that's exactly what stops the dive, and that would have stopped her from going over as much as she did.
So her legs right here, Allison, should be literally almost straight in this position.
Correct. And her arms should still be down on her legs, or at least close to her belly button before they start to move up. And I believe, as you can see, they're right above her chin.
So that's a very interesting dynamic, is the connection between the order in which those things have to happen. And obviously, not being a dive expert like you, This is a great learning experience for me, and all the more easy to understand because I have a visual in front of me that again, our partnership with USA Diving and PowerChalk has created the ability for any of you dive coaches to use this great system to evaluate your dives. Allison,
And it is great.
go ahead. Well, thank you.
I was going to say it is great just because I'm a very visual learner, so it helps especially with coaches who have divers who just say, I don't feel this, I don't see this, I don't. You can actually, with this program, you can take it and pinpoint exactly what you're trying to tell them, and they can see, oh, my head is down, or oh, yeah, my head is back, or oh, yes, my legs are still bent when I'm coming out. And it's proof that what you're telling them is what they are doing versus a coach just saying it over and over again and the diver just being like, well, I don't feel it, I don't get it. You know, and it becomes a very frustrating aspect as a coach. So I'm a big fan that I can actually sit there and show them and, again, watch myself dive and know my pros and cons of where I start and how I finish. But
now, Allison, one of the things that we talked about prior to jumping on the phone, and I'm delighted to be able to listen and learn from you, is if you folks who are watching notice that when we loaded this first dive in slot A, another slot appeared, and for really practical purposes of maybe picking Allison's brain further about what to look for, I'm going to go into the videos and put in a number so it shows you how easy it is to search this. Allison was talking about there might be some drills
yes,
that would be
very good for this diver. What I mean, again, just looking over her, she definitely could use more skill work, more skill progression, particularly dryland training, focusing on the correct, you know, kick outs, kick, look, reach sequence. And obviously, or additionally, she can do more back dive tucks to really work on the kicking first, getting the dive stuck, putting your hands, you know, kick, look, then reach. And you can also, and if you see the difference, I was going to say, that's a great video that you've got there. Now, you can see how he comes in. There's his tuck. Look at his head position. I was going to say, you're uploading it to the, yep.
So we have the ability to use our split screen profile to potentially get them in a similar spot. And I'll scroll, I'll kind of roll her.
Yep.
Boy, there's quite a difference there. And exactly. Even though obviously one is a tuck and one is an actual 1.5, but tell us about the similarities here, and I'll go over to the right-hand dive and scroll him forward a little bit.
The similarities between the dive is the start and the kick out. For a back 1.5 tuck and or a back dive tuck, you want to start the dive the same way. The kick out on 3 meters is going to be a little different. As you can see, he goes to a tuck and then to a pike.
Okay.
If you want to scroll just a little further, he goes from tuck to pike. That kick out right there, that's great on 3 meter. That's going to help get the dive stuck. And over, if you were doing a 1.5, depending on the level and experience you have, you might not be able to kick up that straight, but you can definitely see the difference in where his kick is, and then as you start to scroll through her, where her kick is. See, her legs are still completely bent, and she's already starting to move her arms. His arms are still below his head, at his toes, and he's completely straight out. And then if you want to scroll forward, you'll watch him, his legs stay, but now he's going to the kick part, the press, and then you'll start to see his head go back, and then he'll start to reach. And you notice that his legs don't drop, and his body really doesn't move from that spot. And that's because by kicking his legs first, he completely stops the dive where it's at. And he has full control over where he is in the air and how he enters the water.
Wow, that's a great depiction of what you were talking about earlier. And again, for you at home that have not used our system yet, go on and get your free account at www.powerchalk.com/diving. But this has been extremely insightful. When I heard you say, Allison, about the order in which you kind of come out of that tuck, the diver on the right certainly is literally textbook exactly what you were talking about how the legs are going to go first, if I remember correctly. Then you're going to come out of the tuck. Then you're going to the
Look
arms
back.
are down at the side, as you said. Then you're going to look back and find, I guess what you'd call is find your spot. And then the head goes, and then the arms come last, and you reach.
Correct. And obviously on a back dive tuck, your spot's going to be the water and where you enter. On a back 1.5, your spot tells you where you're going to kick. Some coaches have their divers spot water. Other coaches have their divers spot the board. Either way, whatever you spot, those legs have to be the first thing that come out because, again, that's what initiates the stop of the dive, and it'll stop you from over-rotating.
So if I just if I come over to that's about a similar position as far as hands going in the water, and albeit that it's not the same dive, I would suspect obviously he had much more time to get himself out of that tuck than she did. It does prove your point because as we roll her through and we see that washout, and I'll draw another line just to depict the what I would call, I guess in my sport, the travel. I mean, the amount of travel she had from where she hit the board or hit the water and then come over to the dive on the right. Boy, he stays almost completely on that line and straight into the water. That's a beautiful dive.
I would have to agree with you on that. That's a great looking dive. And then that entry is what we call a RIP entry, and that entry is going to score any diver very well scored, high scores, anywhere between 7.5 and I'd go 8 or 9.
So for you folks that are watching here, and again, very easy to use. I'm not a technology person. Allison, I don't know if you are or not, but what we have heard from a number of your colleagues in the dive business, all the way to Drew Johansson, who's not only the head coach at Duke, but obviously our United States team head coach. He uses our product and started using it well over a year ago on his iPad. And what he was doing is he would literally meet the diver in practice after they hit a dive and got out of the water. If this was the diver, he'd literally be standing right here and with the tablet, and he would use what we call our 10-second Telestrator, which is the app that we have that you can put on your handheld device or smartphone, and you can literally draw with your finger right on the tablet. So I know, Allison, in your business, it's been the proverbial diver hits the dive, gets out of the water, and then goes up to the screen that is kind of TiVo, and they're going to replay the dive. And albeit that that's a good thing, and you guys have been doing that for many, many years, the ability for the coach now, for you on the other side of this broadcast, for you to have Allison Brennan be able to give you that detailed analysis at the most coachable moment, which I would have to say, Allison, is literally right when they're getting out of the water. Is the most coachable moment. You have now the ability through your partnership with and being a member of USA Diving to get this service for free. Now, again, truth in advertising, as I get out of the actual Telestrator, I promised you I'd do a little bit of housekeeping, and before I get to that, want to make sure that you know that this is going to be recorded, and we're going to go ahead and put it on YouTube. So if you wanted to watch this again, hear the great comments of Allison Brennan, and learn more about the system, we go ahead and put that on YouTube. But we also, you folks that are watching the broadcast, if you have questions for Allison, you can type them in. We're going to stay over when we close up the shop here, so to speak, and answer those questions for you. We also have Ryan Magnuson on the PowerChalk staff here, that if you have technical questions about our system, you can type those in, and again, he will either type an answer or I'll answer those for you. But as I mentioned to you, very simple to use, and as we get close to our closing here, wanted to be able to show you that the system that we deployed today, which we kind of call our Pro account, which 3 ways to use the product, as Allison knows. Allison could be shoulder to shoulder with her diver sitting in her office on the pool deck and give the analysis there. Allison could be recording a video and then literally mark it up, talk on top of it, save it, and share it back with the diver remotely. Or you can do what we call, and if you look at the pricing grid, is PowerCast, and PowerCast is a facsimile of what you saw today, and Allison could have her diver at their home, and Allison could be at her home, could be at the actual pool, and do a live lesson over the internet in real time. If Allison happened to not be at a meet and the diver went there, the diver's parents could be taking a video of the diver, send it to Allison, and literally in real time, Allison could almost like being on the pool deck with that diver and yet not being there. It's revolutionary. Our system's the only system that offers that to you. So it really gives you, the dive coach, and the diver and the parents the ability to really participate and collaborate over video. But real quick, Allison, and I know that this is important stuff relative to our great partnership with USA Diving, but we have some packaged opportunities for you if you want to use some of the upgrade tools that we showed you today, or if it's something where you just want to build an account per how you use it. Allison Brennan may say, Matt, I have thousands of videos I want to upload, so she may need more capacity in her locker, whereas some other dive coach may say, I really don't need as much capacity, but I need to be able to have more record time, or I want to use the split screen tool or the broadcast tool. And the bottom line and most important is that you're going to want to come in when you look at that, if you choose to upgrade, is it's USA Diving, all caps, is your promotional code, and then every price that you see here is cut in half, and that's courtesy of USA Diving. So you get a free account to get started, and again, and there's no strings attached. If you want to be able to use some of the other tools that you saw today, see some of the great videos we have loaded from the Grand Prix, and hear some of the analysis from people like Allison Brennan, you can certainly take advantage of that at a 50% off price point. So Allison, I'm going to go ahead again and just say thank you, and we're right about at the 30-minute mark, which is when we usually close up the actual visual portion of our broadcast. Again, as you people see, you can search your locker by sport. So if you want to use your account for more than just diving, if you have a son or a daughter or a sister or brother that plays soccer, you can do that. And you can also create a network of people. Allison may want to have all the divers sign up as friends, and that just allows her to go into their locker and pull their videos up, analyze them, and share them very, very quickly. So we'll go ahead and open it up. If there are any questions that any of you have, we'll stay on for 5 or 10 minutes and answer any of those. You can type them in. Again, if there are technical questions about diving, we know that Allison's the expert there, not me, and we're grateful to have her on today. If there are technical questions and you want to ask us now, you can. You can also go to info@powerchalk.com and submit your question there. We have these sessions every Wednesday, and Allison, I think that you're aware of next Wednesday, when we're all going to have our minds and our hearts in London.
Yeah, very excited.
It's next Wednesday at 12 o'clock for you people that are here, and please spread the word to your fellow USA Diving members or even non-members who need to join. Is that we'll have Drew Johansson from London. And much as a great follow-up to our honored guest today, Allison Brennan, it'll be great to have Drew showing you an actual analysis session done from a dive in practice at the Olympic site. So it'll be a very exciting time for all of us. And if you'd also like to have a special benefit today, if you go to www.facebook.com/PowerChalk Sports and you like our Facebook page, we'll put an additional 10 video slots in your locker with our compliments. So again, if you'd like to ask some questions of either Allison Brennan, our expert today, and again, Allison, I want to thank you on behalf of not only USA Diving, but also for PowerChalk for all that you do for the sport of diving and for the time that you've dedicated to us today. We really, really appreciate that, and I hope that we have a chance to meet personally someday. I know that we've got some upcoming things coming up in Greensboro that we will be there. So any of you that will be making the trip to Greensboro in the month of August, we from PowerChalk will be there. Would be glad to talk to you, help you set up your account if you need to. But for now, if there are no questions, Allison, I want to say thank you again for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Matt. I greatly appreciate it.
And folks, again, this will be recorded and put on YouTube. If you want to watch it again or share it with your friends, Allison, we'll be in touch in the very near future. Go Team USA, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.